I just finished the concept for my next character, and the goal is to create something anime inspired in 3D. The main inspiration comes from Appleseed, but with more modern take. As usual, I started with MetaHuman as the base for the character. It's a great starting point and it saves a lot of time. But the default face texture felt a little too realistic for the anime inspired look I was aiming for. So I decided to hand paint the makeup and turn this raw texture to this version with full Douyin makeup, inspired by this concept using Unreal, Maya, Substance Painter, MetaHuman plugin and MetaHuman for Maya plugin. So I open up my Unreal and start with MetaHuman character. The first thing I usually do is just to play around with the facial features for a while. I'm not trying to make it perfect right away, I'm mostly filling things out and seeing what will work. Because I want this character to lean more towards an anime style, I try to keep the features softer and a little less realistic. I make a bunch of small tweaks on the eyes, face shapes, nose, and pretty much everything that helps push the character closer to whatever I have in my mind. Once I'm happy with the character, I build the rig. After that's done, I head over to assembly section. Here I set the assembly type to DCC export. Choose an export location and let MetaHuman generate all the files you need for the next steps. Now it's time to move over to Maya. I've already imported my character using the MetaHuman for Maya plugin, so everything is ready to go. As you can see, the MetaHuman rig works surprisingly well inside Maya. One thing that's really useful is that the face and body are separated into different meshes. Since most of the work in this project is going to be in the facial texture, I don't really need the whole character right now, so I'm just going to export the head and eyes as an FVX and take those into Substance Painter. Next, I bring the model to Substance Painter and do the usual project setting. At this point, we'll need the DCC export folder that we selected earlier. Open it up, go through folder name maps, and you can see all the base textures. Drag the base color into Substance, and what I'm gonna do is adjusting the roughness. And after that, drag the normals. Now we're gonna do the same with the eyes. Drag the base color of the eye into Substance, and then after that, dragging the normals. Now that the base is ready, I bring up my reference and start doing the makeup. First, I focus on getting the eyes as close to the reference as possible. So I'm gonna do the cornea. A fill layer, adding a black mask, and on the black mask adding a bitmap and searching through all four that looks like a circle with a hole inside. Go through its setting, change the projection to planar projection and changing UV wrap type to none. Now you can play around with the position and the setting to place it right in the cornea. Also change the color to whatever you want it to be. And if it looks like a cheap contact, don't worry, we're gonna fix it later. Duplicate the eye color layer because we need the same alpha again. Change the color to a more deep and dark version like the reference. Go through all four settings so it looks like the dark circle around the cornea. You can play around with the opacity and other stuff if you want to. Again, duplicate the dark circle layer and choose whatever brush you want and cover the top half of iris. Find this to give a cartoony vibe. And I did brush over the pupil too, again for the same anime-like look. After that, I choose the smudge tool and smooth the corners out. You can do whatever you want in this case, changing and testing out other brushes or whatever. And now what I did was duplicating the first base color that was a light blue, dragging it on top and adding a new black mask. What we are doing is adding a light circle around the pupil for the look. In that point, I thought I need another color to exist in the iris. So I duplicated the last layer and added the black mask and changed the color to some greenish blue and painting it with smudging out the corners. Now we're gonna do eye highlights, following previous steps, new layer, black mask, drawing, etc. And you can place it wherever you want. Another thing I needed to fix before finishing the eye texture was her sclera. It looked too red and lifeless. So again, I created a fill layer with lighter color, added a black mask and the same alpha we used for iris. And again, changing alpha setting to planar projection and UV repeat to none, and trying to place it so it hides redness. And I think we are all done with the eyes. Now let's move to the face. Let's start doing our dewy makeup. First thing, I thought it might be better to start with a concealer, meaning taking out some of her rednesses. I added a fill layer, a black mask, and for the color, I choose the lighter color that has already exists in the face palette. Then I've tested out some brushes to see which one is more suitable. And I painted the areas that you put concealer when you're doing makeup. Under eye, chin, forehead, nose bridge. And after that, you can try to play around with opacity and other stuff. After you're done concealing, it's time to place some intentional rednesses for making it cuter and animal-like. You can see in my reference, she has the rednesses on her nose, around her eyes and lips. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a face tint. You can place rednesses wherever you want to, but I'm going to stick with my reference. So I'm trying to emphasize on her eyes. You can play around and see what will work out for you. And then I went for highlights. A light bluish color and make it a little reflective. Add a black mask there, and before anything drawing or whatever, turn on the symmetry. For brush, I chose dust because it looks like a glitter. And then I started with the inner corner of the eyes and a little bit on the eyelid too. And of course, smudging it out a little bit. Now it's the most important part, the main feature that indicates the animal-like identity of our character. For doing the eye area, I'm gonna stick as much to reference as possible. First, the initial line. I'm gonna choose the color from a reference and try to find a brush that fits. And then we're gonna start matching the eyeliner with the reference. It's okay to overline for that big eye effect. Then you can make it darker and start drawing the second eyeliner on top when you're done with it. After that, put a white line in her waterline because that's the sign of these dewy makeups and it gives an illusion that the eye is really big and animal-like. And then you can really take your time and start cleaning it up and put whatever detail you think you need. Now we need something to define our features, and that something is contouring. Choose a dark, cool color for it. You can take it from the darkest part of the face, but it needs to be cool toned for giving shadows. And we're gonna place it on the areas we need definition. You can do it with a hard brush because later we're gonna smudge it out. Do it on the nose, cheekbones, and wherever you think that needed. Then smudge them really good and try to play around with opacity so it looks like shadows. And you're done defining the features. And we're gonna do more highlights. Choose a really shiny reflective color with a dusty glittery brush and place it where you think that it needs to be shiny. When doing makeup, we usually place it on nose bridge, tip of the nose, inner corner of the eye, eyelid, upper lip line, and cheeks. And after done your highlighting, again you can play around with smudging them out or tweaking the opacity and whatever. Now let's make the lips M shape, like a reference. You can do this illusion with placing shadows on lips. It's great how you can do this stuff with texturing. And then we are done. Ta-da!